you, madam, to the With Trichy 2021 webinar series. You may now go ahead with your talk on the topic, importance of data skills in the workplace.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll just quickly share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Shweta, for introducing me. A quick summary about me in one pager, what you just said for everyone to see as well. I wouldn't go, I would take a lot of time in going through this. Just currently, I'm associated with Tridents, where I am leading the delivery for one of the key verticals here, and within that vertical, I lead certain accounts there. So why I want that this topic needs to be discussed, because what I see from my experience, that everything that we do today in in industry, in an organization, is somehow related to data. Any question? Anything? Anyone want to say?
No, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, but in case how I want to keep it. If you have any question, if you want to ask something, you can ask me then and there, or you can wait for session to get over. Then I have a separate Q and A dedicated for the purpose. Okay. But even if you have something burning, if you want to really ask that time, you can quickly ask as well. So, when we say data today, and as I said, in organization, everything today is associated with data somehow. Wherever we are working, it is associated with data. Why? Because in past few years, data has increased multifold. Okay, see, this is how data has grown from 2010 and where it is going to be in 2025. And these are all zettabytes. So we are looking at somewhere 175 zettabytes in data collection, which is globally data is getting collected. Now, data itself has multiple areas. One is the volume of data, what we just saw, that 175 zettabytes is the amount of data that we are collecting. And then the variety of data. So the data is structured, semi-structured, unstructured. I hope you are aware of unstructured and structured. Unstructured is typically where you don't, the data that you collect, like when you go and research, or when you collect questionnaires, those are very unstructured data. Structure is where you have fixed labels where we can do analysis on top of it. That is a structured data. And the velocity, so the speed at which the data is getting generated. So you can quickly understand by the credit card transaction that happens in any store. It is seconds. It is getting collected in seconds, right? Or in a manufacturing setup, you have sensors there. So those sensors are regularly sending some signals, right? So those are again in milliseconds and seconds. So that is how the speed at which data is getting generated. Then the degree of which data is being trusted. So um, not every data can be trusted, right? So we have a lot of it about, can we look at the whether it's fraud related data. So veracity is also one component of when we talk about data. Then the value. So not all kind of data generates business value, right? So we also have a data component which is associated with the value of the data that gets collected, and variability. So in credit card transaction, I go back to the same example. You have some transaction, some days it is going above, like on weekends we can already see, some transaction would be more than on weekends than weekdays, right? So that is a variability in the data. And so data itself, earlier we had volume, variety, and velocity. Now we have three more components added into it, which is veracity, value, and variability. So that is why I feel it becomes an important area to gain those skills, to understand the data, and for every kind of job that you do. And I would touch upon that for areas where it is not really analytics, still you have to get that sense of data, to read the data of whatever data you have in that particular domain where you're working. Few facts about analytics industry, and we saw that how data is growing, and that is why we also see that this industry of analytics is going to be $97.3 billion in 2025 with a growth of 6.4%, right? And within India, if you just look India as a geography, then 3.03%, $3.03 billion is what we saw in 2019, right? And average workforce age 8 years experience, right? And more than I mean almost 40% of them have less than 5 years experience. So what I want to say is that this industry is probably not even that mature, that you don't see a lot of skills coming up. In fact, this is very very young industry, and 5 years and less than a years of experience, you have 40% of the workforce coming from that particular experience bracket. Okay, so that means it is one of the preferred choice, career choice that people can look forward to. I would touch upon careers pretty later in the part, but first, why I want to make you understand why any organization need analytics today. Okay, and we can even think of how we can look at various sectors within that organization to have to bring those outputs into practice. So why any organization need analytics and digital transformation? Because first first and foremost, they want to eliminate all the manual tasks and processes that they have currently. So I don't know if you read, or if you were there when banking went through this change. Earlier, it used to happen all on papers, on registers. Then computer came and it took over the whole banking industry. Now, if we look at manufacturing as a sector, lot of processes are still very manual. So, or if it is not manual, if you see a lot of operations happening, but we don't have intelligence in that machine to eliminate that process, the manual intervention in those processes. So, in that for that purpose, analytics is important to understand where which process needs a change, which manual task needs to be eliminated, and then you can introduce a lot of technology to automate all of this, right? Coming back to manufacturing, so if you have sensors there, you also need a data center or a data base where the data related to sensor will get captured, right? That is why you need new technologies into practice. Without a database, or without um, a place where data can be stored, you really can't do anything about the data. So new and new technologies need to be incorporated for analytics and digital transformation to be successful. And then third part is why we are doing all of this, why we are eliminating processes, why we are introducing new technologies, only because we want to enable cost saving. Now understand, we have reached an era where uh, it is difficult to place a new product, or maybe you can say, if I'm already using something on if it is a very very high end product, very least likely I would switch, right? So if so most of the companies have reached to that stage where they don't know whom to target. Okay, when they don't know whom to target, where they can get revenue from, right? So if you don't have a revenue, to maintain that profitability, you need to play with the cost, right? And that is where you have to incorporate more and more automation, more and more technologies to enable those cost saving. Excuse me. Now coming to the company culture, right? Now all of this cannot happen when you are not targeting the company culture, right? There will be a lot of uncertainties in employees mind when you try to introduce a new technology, right? They may feel that, oh, my job is at stake, right? Or maybe I will be I will not be having a job when this technology has been introduced. So there's a lot of uncertainty which you need to remove from your employee's mind and maintain a culture. So you have to bring that change management within your organization as well. Then fifth pillar I would say is about driving efficiency. So we have talked about, we will have cost saving, we will eliminate manual tasks, but it is also about driving a lot of efficiency. So when I say efficiency, it could be anything. When we look at HR, okay, uh, can we have can we see how our employees can be more productive, right? They can look at it today. My employees are spending a lot of their time in entering this manual data onto the system. Can I help them with some platform which can automatically capture it? Okay, my employees are taking a lot of time in entering my gate, because there's a queue that always forms. So why can't I introduce a face recognition kind of system, or ID kind of system, where they don't have to do the manual entry and they just log in and they get inside. And that is how you see a lot of companies now have biometrics, or an ID swipe in, because of the same reason, right? That manual entry has been eliminated to bring more and more efficiency in employees. In operations as well, how can I be more productive from my machinery that I have? Where do I see the leakages? Okay, um, then it then all why we do all of it? We are doing all of it to improve my user experience. My customer is at the core. So to give them a good experience, I need to enable all of this, right? Because if my customer is not happy, then I will not be able to generate more revenue from them, or I will not be able to get business. So all this digital transformation is for keeping a good user experience. Now, this is the analytics maturity model. So, why I again wanted this to highlight, because if you look at industry as general, they are still at a descriptive or diagnostic, side, where either they are looking at what has happened in the past, or why did it happen in the past. Okay, what will happen? A lot of the industries moving towards understanding what will happen. How to make it happen is still, you may not find a lot of uh, players working on that side to understand how to make it happen, or what to do and why and how to do. Okay, so you see, if we have only reached half the stage, that is still predictive or diagnostic, we still have a lot of it to be achieved. And one quick question could be, why we couldn't achieve so far. Okay, it has multiple reasons to it. One is, and that is why I have put it in a 2 by 2 matrix, which is how difficult it is to derive, and how much value it will give, right? So as you go up, that much difficult it becomes, and that where your value lies. Okay, now, why industry is still at predictive or diagnostic? There are multiple reasons to it. One, your data Today industry is facing a huge problem in terms of creating data lakes or single source of truth. Why? Because data is distributed. If you look at a large setup, FMCG organization like Procter and Gamble or Colgate, all these organizations, they are suffering from this one problem, that their data is distributed. So if it's finance data, they have a separate system. If they have HR data, it has a separate system. If they have some cases, even companies at a plant level, they have different plants. There are systems which are at plant level. Again, you cannot do any analytics on top of it when you don't have a central data repository. Okay, so that is the reason lot of the companies are right now at a stage where they are building that central data repository so that they are able to do predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. Okay. Another thing is, we don't have a lot of skill set that would be at prescriptive or cognitive level. Okay, we don't have that much experience in having that, because uh, for a company like Procter and Gamble, it is not their business, right? IT is not their business. Their business is, you know, producing that products, not IT. So they don't have that skills. So they go to the vendor, they do go to the consulting companies to help them develop some solutions out of it, you know. But articulating about solution is also something important, which still something which is missing from their end, because obviously data is still not available in a central location. Now, analytics is all about solving problems. Okay, so when I say it is important for all, it is not really that you have to be in analytics, as a function. You don't need to be in analytics function, or you don't need to be business analyst, or you don't need to be data scientist to do that. Why? Because still, if you end up becoming HR, okay, you still need data, right? And these are the use cases that you would be looking at to get that understanding. Recruitment. What happens in recruitment? They do candidate sourcing. They get a lot of resume, right? And then there is a tool that shortlist using keywords. What is that? That tool is one of the analytics tool that gives the keywords, and that HR, who's not, by the way, an analytics person, looks at that keyword or gives that keyword to the tool to extract those resume, right? Then with those, it again searches that which person would be able to, give us, would be able to join early. From, again, there are certain data points that they look at what is their notice period, what is their salary, do they fall in their in our target or not, right? So again, these are data points that HR uses without working on any analytics, right? So again, it is a data skill. Then, when you do a performance management in organization, there are a lot of objective setting happens. Then there's a historical performance that has been read for a promotion, if someone needs to go to, right? So, and also if we have to put someone into, non-performing bracket, we also need to predict what that performance would be, right? So all of this is why I brought it, because it's not analytics job, it is an HR job, but he needs to also work with data. Next is sales. Okay, now you won't find a lot of people who would do analytics. They are core sales people. But what happens in sales? Okay, in sales, a marketing team, they identify lead, or sales team identify lead, right? And then they position themselves, right? Now, forget about what is there on the slide. You, as a salesperson, you have thousand of the clients to go to, thousand of leads you have to go through. What would you do? You would prioritize. You would prioritize based on certain variables. It could be that, okay, um, this is close to my house, it's easy for me to go and meet the client. Or, oh, okay, I just had a meeting regarding this product, now I can have another meeting for this product, right? So what you're doing, you're actually using data to prioritize or position your client and assessing it whether the client would convert or not, right? That is nothing but what sales analytics do, right? It also looks at the leads and then position themselves, assess them, look at where what client fall on what quadrant, and then target accordingly. Okay, this the famous, sports. uh, Sports, there are a lot of use cases in sports. Now you must have noticed in cricket or in your football, on the ground they do a lot of visualization on the TV to give a match analysis, right? What is match analysis? Match analysis nothing but your analytics. Okay, and based on the data that they are collecting, the teams evaluate the performance of various players. Okay, so that's performance analytics, that's performance that they want to understand, and then they would want to do some corrective action, or they want to maybe change the positions. You must have noticed that in cricket sometimes a player was playing at fourth position, now they have brought to second or first, because they have looked at their historical performance and then they thought, okay, this person looks like to be. It's not by intuition, right? It is based on some data. Okay, now coming back to I've given you a lot of information about what we have in terms of analytics, why it is important. Now coming to various job profiles, if you want to target analytics as one of your career choices, um, so in analytics there are multiple industries. One is service industry. In service industry you have consulting, so you have companies like Tridents where I am. You have companies like ENY and Big Fours. There they are helping client like Procter and Gamble for their analytics use cases. Okay, so the companies like Procter and Gamble, Colgate, or all these large conglomerate, they come and go to consulting companies to help with the use cases. Then a captive setup. Captive is nothing but Procter and Gamble itself or Unilever. So Unilever, you can get into Unilever in a data as a data scientist or business analyst. So you are creating analytics for internal consumption. Okay, so nothing to do with consulting. You are doing it for your self consumption. So if whatever your choice of company is, there are skills like their profiles like data scientist, data engineers. You have also project managers, product managers, BI developers. BI is nothing but dashboard development. Okay, then you have people who are from design, UI UX developer. It is again an extension to BI development, but it is like creating designs, creating mock-ups. Then consultants. Okay, so consultants are typically people who would do first business analysis and then they move into consulting role because they understand business now. But one thing I always say, analytics in general is something, but if you want to grow in that, you have to also understand domain. That is a very important aspect of analytics. If you feel, obviously in the beginning you may not be able to understand domain that well, but eventually you have to pick up a domain. That's my advice. You have to pick up a domain, because when you understand domain, you'll be able to solve the problem, because it's just about solving problems. You don't know KPIs, you will not be able to help the client or help your organization to solve those problems. So always grow the domain understanding wherever you get into. Okay, then soft skills are obviously important, and it is more important if you are in a consulting setup. Then data, for a data scientist, you need to have a lot of structured thinking. Okay, it's obvious that you have to know statistics and machine learning and problem solving, but structured thinking is something which is very very important if you want to make a career in data science in that way. Okay, yeah. So I'm done from my side. If you have any questions now, I make it open for all to ask me whatever you want.
Participants can raise their hands if they have any questions. I have a question from my end.
Yes.
You already spoke about data explosion and how there is a lot of data being generated by companies. So, is there any way to reduce in order to get quality data? Is there any way to reduce data collection, noise in data collection at the user end, so that uh, it it will result in cost cutting associated with data cleaning and even some other aspects?
Yeah. Okay. So I understand what you're asking, but um, when we talk about data collection, we really cannot remove noises at that level. So look at this. So you go for a shopping. You have this scanner, right? That scans the clothes or the code. Now if there is an issue in that data collection, really you can't really do anything about it. So that is why this data is captured and cleansed. So first it goes to the raw layer, and then it is cleansed by a team who is working on the data. So it never happens at the first point of contact.
Okay. Siddharth, you can go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, I have a question. Like you said, it's very difficult for companies to create data lakes. Why exactly is it like that? Why exactly is it that difficult? They can do all sorts of stuff like surveys, market research, and find out patterns and create a huge amount of data. And in turn, eventually data lakes. So why is it that difficult exactly?
So what do you understand by data lake, Siddharth?
A huge collection of data which will help you identifying future patterns in the sector that you want to operate in.
Okay.
And take out different inferences from that.
True. So you are half correct, half wrong. Yes, it is a collection of data, but data lake is not just the collection of data. Okay, it is collection of data from various sources. Okay, now why it is difficult? Mm, think of it. Let's take example of a retailer. Okay, let's say whom do we call here? Big Bazaar. Okay, let's take Big Bazaar. So Big Bazaar has so many stores, right? Every day they are selling so many products. Now it all this information is getting captured somewhere when you have a POS system, that is a point of sales machine that scanned your code. It gets captured. Now that is one part. There is another information which is the sourcing. So these Big Bazaar obviously source all this from somewhere, and those somewhere is not just one. You get so many things. Big Bazaar is into food. They are into, so they also have fruits, they have groceries, they also have clothing, so imagine they are sourcing it from various warehouses. Then so many retailers, so many, not retailers but producer or manufacturers, give their product to Big Bazaar. Okay, now you understand the complexity. Now when that manufacturer sends good to a warehouse, Big Bazaar warehouse or their own warehouse, there's a transport involved. Now there is an information that is going to transport as well, who would pick that material and go and send it to warehouse. Warehouse themselves has some information of inventory and how much stocks they currently have, how much they have to pile up, right? There is another exercise then you need to do on the forecasting side, that how much I have to stock up. Now individually they are having this data, but it doesn't make sense, or you won't be able to do a proper solutioning if this data is not kept in one source, in one area, which is data lake. Okay, that is a problem. So we have just looked at Big Bazaar, but who is probably present in India, but think of Walmart, right? Its presence is like globally. How difficult it is to capture that data in one source. Think about Procter and Gamble. They have so many
So you,
distribution network. Hello.
so ma'am, you mean the complexity of bringing all this data together and the
True.
huge amount from all those.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
There's one more question in the chat.
I love this question. So who is this? Sita Lakshmi. So Sita, there are opportunities, but it's it's not. It's very much dependent on your past experience, qualification as well. Suppose you come from an IT industry, which is closely related to data, closely related to coding. It is easy, that transition is easy. If you come from a statistics background, right, maybe you are an MSc in statistics, it that transition would be much easier. But if you come from a very different background, it is not about being women in brick. It is about that industry as such, that data science, this field, need some kind of understanding, some kind of experience into the thing that you're getting into. But it's not just that. If you feel that and it's also about experience. Suppose you carry 8 years of experience in a very different field, then makes it more and more difficult to get into that field as new, because data science, as I said, it is less than 5. Mostly the workforce is less than 5 years experience. So then company also needs to think the dynamics within that organization, right? That how people would be, how your satisfaction, how that satisfaction would also be taken care when you have more experience than your peers. So all of it we need to study to see whether you'll be able to change your career choice, but it is very very much possible.
Are there any more questions? I think we can wrap up. We don't have any more questions. So thank you once again for your very enriching and insightful talk, Richa, and also for answering all the questions that our audience had. You gave us a lot of new perspectives on why analytics and digital transformation is very imperative for businesses nowadays, by giving a lot of different kinds of industry examples. So it was really wonderful interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity to come and talk to such a young minds. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.